I've logged over 50 hours playing the Illuvium testnet. And I know that may not seem a lot to some of you, but that, along with constantly being in the Discord, on Illuvium Twitter, gives me a really good idea of what's going on in this game. And I finally feel comfortable making a video about my thoughts on it now that I feel like I have a good grasp of what's going on. And this video is going to be focused on the overworld right now. I'm going to talk about what I think Illuvium is doing great so far, and some things that I think need a little improvement, a little tweaking before things are just right. So I'm going to try to make this video quick, but I'm going to touch on the ranger equipment, weapons and armor, drone equipment, shards, alluvials with like tier rarity and hollows and dark hollows, and then just some final thoughts. So let's get right into it. The ranger equipment. Now you have your jetpack, you have your mag boots, and you have your vision goggle things. You have the 3 tiers. There's a couple things I don't like about this. For one, you have to farm stage 0 runs just to be able to forge this equipment. Now the ingots you need to forge this equipment are all in the stage 0 regions. And I think it would be cool to have those maybe not be as common, but sprinkled into like the stage 1, 2, and even 3 regions. Like when this game starts, if somebody wants to pay money to get into those higher stage regions and still progress through the game, I think they should be able to. Because right now, even the biggest whale out there, I mean, I guess they could go and buy it on the Illuvidex if they're not jumping into the game day 1. But you need to grind out a stage 0 region for a little while, a good amount of time to build up that ranger equipment before you can be as efficient as possible in the higher stages. And then once you get that ranger equipment, there's really no upgrading from there. So basically the state of ranger equipment is farm the heck out of a stage 0 run until you get what you need, and then you never need to make any more equipment again. So I'd like to see some updates on that. Maybe some more progression of the equipment that you need to get at higher stages. All right, weapon and armor. I'm not going to touch too much on this. If you're farming the resources and forging weapon and armor, I think it's mainly for the arena. So there may be a place in open beta where you're creating this weapon and armor to put onto the market for the people who just want to play arena, or you're going to be an arena player yourself. But if you're just in here and you want to just hang out in the overworld and catch alluvials and, try to collect them all, the weapon and armor doesn't mean a whole lot. If you have enough strong alluvials, you can beat just about any encounter you come into. So I'd like to see weapons and armors play a bigger role in the overworld. All right, drone equipment. I think this is one of the best things going for the overworld right now because it is a grind. It gives you something that you're constantly progressing for. Like I said, I'm about 50 hours in, and a lot of that has been, grinding for this drone equipment. And what I think makes these even better is the secondary bonus on each piece of equipment. I guess one of the best drone equipment you can get is your tier 5 stage 3 drone equipment, which gives you a 35% chance increase in catch rate for alluvials. And it takes a while to grind up to that. I'm not even there yet. But if you get that, and you get a secondary bonus of, say, increasing your scanning by 10%. Some people will be happy with that, but then there's going to be a lot of people that are just like, well, that's not what I wanted. That's not going to give me the best chances moving forward. It's not going to be optimal or the most efficient. So now I need to keep grinding and do it again. Maybe I sell off that one on the market and I keep grinding to build up for another one. The only other thing I'd say on drone equipment is maybe add some more, and I'd suspect that would already happen. We're just in the test net, so I think over time they might add new pieces of drone equipment that you can work towards. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. There's maybe 15 of them right now, but I think they could keep building on top of that. All right, so shards. So right now you have your common shard all the way up to your resplendent shard, so your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 shards. What I'm finding, at least, in this testnet, it might be a little different when we're working with, real value on the mainnet, but your common shards and your uncommon shards are basically useless because you can easily farm the, rare and epic shards, and they're going to give you a much better catch rate even at those stage 1 alluvials. And then as you go up to your epic and resplendent shards, I think the catch rate on those are a little too weak. So right now, without drone equipment, if you're using a resplendent shard on just a tier 5 stage 1, you're only getting about a 33% chance to capture it. And that gets even smaller if you go stage 2 or stage 3 of that tier 5. Now, I want these alluvials to be hard to catch. I want them to be more rare. I'll talk about that in a second. But it's almost to the point that when you see those tier 5 alluvials, you're not even using your resplendent shards anymore. You're using the master shards that you have to make sure you have that 100% catch rate. And then when we talk about master shards, there was a recent update that made master shards a lot more expensive and more of a grind to get, which I completely agree with. Before that, I thought it was too easy to get master shards, and it really made using a resplendent shard, at least on a tier 5 or even a tier 4 alluvial, just useless. ridiculous. And when we do get on chain, I think it's going to be too much just to have a bunch of master shards. So I think people will just use them, sparingly on those really rare things, like those tier 5 stage 3 alluvials or hollows and dark hollows, and people will be forced to use more of those resplendents. But I still think that 33% on a stage 1 tier 5 alluvial with a resplendent shard is probably just a little too low. So I'd like to see that change a little bit. All right, so now to alluvials. When it comes to the rarity, I think they have a good balance there, at least when it comes to tier rarity. When you hop into the region, you're seeing a lot of stage 1 and stage 2, the lynxes running around. And I like how that gives a little bit more to the environment, because it's not like every alluvial you see, you want to go run and catch. So having those stage 1, stage 2, and even those stage 3s, running around where you could see it and you just pass it by because it's not really worth it, I think that's good to have in the game. And then when you see those tier 4 and tier 5s, you get excited that something rare came across the screen. Where I think the issue lies is the rarity for those stages. So right now, if you're farming these airdrop points, you need to collect a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 of a line to get the points for that line. Now, I haven't even considered fusing any alluvials yet, because it just doesn't seem worth it. If you're out in the overworld grinding enough, I feel like you're eventually going to come across that stage 2 or stage 3 for really any rarity. I don't see it worth the time and effort to look for 9 ram fees, build up their levels to enough where I can fuse them together and fuse it up to a ram fire. Where if I'm just playing enough, eventually I think I'll come across a ram fire. So I think those stage 3 and even some of the stage 2 of any line, whether it's, from tier 1 to tier 5, I think those need to become more rare. Simply because I think fusing is really good for the economy. It's going to make alluvials deflationary. But if the game's at a state where you don't really need to fuse and you can just grind out the overworld until you find that higher stage alluvial, then I think the value of fusing is just not really there. So I'd like to see a little balance on that. Then we got ethereals. These are a new thing that was just brought in the last update. When you shoot down an alluvial, you jump into the battle. There's going to be a whole battle board of, could be really anywhere between like 6 and I think 12 alluvials that you're battling against. But you're only going to get an option to catch 3 of them. I really like that because it gives an opportunity to have a tougher battle with higher tier alluvials without overinflating the supply of those rare alluvials. So now you could hop into one of those battles and you could see a ramfire in a fisto, those really rare alluvials. But when it comes down to it, you only have 3 to catch, and you're probably not going to have a chance to catch that ramfire. But you're still seeing it more in the game, and it's getting some use. So overall, I like the idea of these ethereals right now. Oh, and just going back to the rarity of these alluvials, when it comes to hollows and dark hollows, ooh, pretty sure that's a hollow. Similar to what I was saying about the tier 5 stage 3s, I think these are a little too common. Like, obviously, hollows are going to be less common than the dark hollows, but even just scrolling Twitter, I think they're a little too common. I want these things to be, like, super rare, because there is a part of this economy for those big whales and people who want to spend a lot of money. And there's going to be people out there who want to have full collections of these hollows and dark hollows. And don't get me wrong, even at the current rarity, they are going to have some value, but I think especially those dark hollows should be like really super rare, like more rare than they are now. Like rare to the point where like maybe we're 6 months into playing this game and there's only 1 dark hollow ramfire that exists. Like that kind of rare. So I like to see that balanced out a little bit too. And finally, when we come to the alluvials, back to the matches, when we're talking about mastery points, I think that's a really good thing for the game too, because they've made these battles to a point where like if you have a good set of alluvials, you don't even really need to have them synergize well or have the good armor and weapon like I was talking about earlier. You can have just a good set of alluvials and you can beat almost whatever comes at you in those alluvial encounters. But the mastery points is really what separates you from, possibly being able to capture 3 alluvials versus only 1. Because if you just load up your board, you could win that encounter, but you might only have 30, 40, 50 mastery points left and only have a chance to catch one of those alluvials. Where if you're good with your synergies and your weapons and your armor, then you might be able to defeat that battle and still have 150 mastery points, which is going to give you more attempts to catch those alluvials. So I think the mastery points are great right now. In final thoughts, I think all of this is going great. And just coming off of what I was saying with those mastery points, what I really like about this game is that anyone can pick it up and play it. And the way you get better at this game and be skilled is more about your efficiency than your reflexes. So if you're efficient when you go on your runs to have the right drone equipment, then you're going to be efficient in collecting the resources that you need. And if you're getting the right drone equipment, then you can be more efficient in the alluvials that you capture. And when you get into one of these encounters, if you know how to build a team where it's got a lot of synergy and it meshes well together, then you're going to have more mastery points, so you're more efficient in those encounters to catch more alluvials. So I could have my 8-year-old daughter go and play this game, and I can play this game, and I think we could both have fun doing it. But knowing the game and being as efficient as possible is really how you're going to get the most out of it. But let me know your thoughts on this below. I always forget to say this, make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribing. Like this video, please. It really helps out a lot. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.